Hey, welcome back to the Producer Seat. I'm Dan Wathen, and if you've been in church media for any amount of time, you already know this feeling. Maybe you got a vision, your pastor's excited, your team's fired up, and you've done all the homework, and then it goes to the board and it just sits there. Today, we're talking about one of the most frustrating parts of this job, and that's getting high-level budget approval from a pastor and a church board that doesn't speak your language. And I'm going to give you real strategies, but first I want to take you through two stories. These are two completely different types of church media directors with two very different failure modes. And we're going to frame everything we talk about today around that, because the goal isn't just to get the yes, it's to deserve that yes and keep it. You know, early in my career as a church media director, one of the main reasons I was hired was to develop a new TV program for one of the churches. This wasn't a pulpit show like you typically see. It was something different, something that could actually compete in the broadcast space, right? So my team and I, we spent 2 years on this. I mean, we went to multiple NAB conventions, studied camera options, and if you know your history, this was right before the Canon 5D came out and changed everything. It gave literally everybody at a low price point that film look for a fraction of the price. But back then, getting shallow depth of field meant these crazy lens attachments you'd have to put on cameras, and it would come up to north of $50,000. I mean, today my iPhone probably shoots better than those rigs. But anyway, the point is, we did our homework. We had the format developed, equipment researched, locations scouted even, the budget built. The pastor was all in, and then he gave his stamp of approval, and then it had to go to the board for the actual budget sign-off. But right at that moment, the church, of course, decided to launch a building expansion. And you can guess what happened. That TV show never happened. I mean, my team was devastated. In fact, some of them lost interest and left the job. And to this day, we still say, man, remember that show, what could have been done. But here's what I want you to hear. The media budget is not and should not be the biggest priority of a church. The health and growth of that congregation's got to come first. I mean, that building is ministry. That expansion was the pastor's mission. And as much as it hurt me and the team, that was probably the right call. But the harder lesson, and the pastor honestly might have just been entertaining the idea more than he was fully committed to it. If I'd understood that earlier, I might have framed the whole project completely differently with my team. Not as a guarantee, but as a worthy risk that we were going to take on. I mean, worst case, the show didn't happen. We keep our jobs. That one free frame probably would have protected a lot of people. Now, here's the flip side to that. I knew another church media director who was hired for a similar reason. Build a new show format for TV, tweak it up, change it up, make some things new set, etc. And the church was actually buying gear. And over time, piece by piece, they were funding it, writing checks. But this guy refused to use any of it until he had 100% of the equipment in the studio built out. Every camera, every light, every piece of infrastructure. Nothing launched until it was perfect. And I understand that instinct. I do. I'm in Hollywood, and you typically want the full package in before you roll. But in the church world, it just doesn't work like that. You got to ramp it up, phase things in. So let's say those new cameras start arriving. Let's start using them now. The studio set's ready, but maybe you're missing some lights. Can we light it with portable lights from the floor until the rest of the budget comes through? Let the pastor see progress. Let the board see their investment actually working. Get them excited. This director kept going back, asking for more money before anything launched. And the pastor got tired of waiting. He got tired of hearing, we need this other thing first. And eventually, that guy lost his job. Here's the lesson I want you to learn. Once you pitch a budget and get that yes, you can't come back 6 months later and say, well, we actually need this other stuff before we can start. That's going to destroy confidence, and it's extremely hard to earn back the trust of a pastor or a board after that happens. In fact, it's usually almost impossible. Phase things in. Be transparent with your pastor about what phasing means. I mean, you can say, yes, we can launch with what we have, and here's what it'll look like and what it won't look like. Let him make that call. But make sure he's making it with the full information. That's your job as a leader to do. I want to put both those stories in even a bigger context before we get into the strategies. I've worked as a producer in Hollywood, and I have friends who have spent decades pitching projects that never get made. Entire careers, they're chasing this green light that just never came. And they don't get paid for that time. It's completely lost. In your world as a full-time church media employee, you get paid for your ideas. You have a salary. You have a team that has benefits. The church owns those ideas because they're paying you to generate them. But that's actually an awesome thing, even when a project dies. So a real producer understands those odds. They take the risk with eyes open. They feel the disappointment, but they move forward anyway. If you're leading a team towards a big project right now, be honest with them. This is a worthy risk, not a guaranteed outcome. That framing alone protects your team and it protects you. Hey, real quick pause here. I wanted to make you aware of a program I have for church media leaders who are stepping into or maybe struggling with producer level responsibilities. The program's called The Producer Seat, and it's not a course, it's not a video library, it's direct coaching, me and you together, real situations, real answers. Find out more at drwmediaworks.com. Now back at it. So let's look at 6 strategies for getting and keeping the yes. Number 1, frame everything around the pastor's vision, not your wish list. Every piece of equipment you're asking for exists for one reason: to take the pastor's message and the gospel to people outside the 4 walls of the church. Say that out loud in your proposal. The media department is the digital building. And yes, it takes some money to build, just not as much as the actual physical building you're sitting in. That language makes a board member lean forward instead of backwards. Number 2, never bring one option, always bring 3. Walking in with only one camera option and one price tag makes it look like you've already decided and you just simply want a rubber stamp on everything. Boards do not like that. They feel cornered. So bring a range of ideas and equipment. Maybe a top line option, a strong mid-range, and then a solid baseline. Set your floor and ceiling. That signals fiscal responsibility, and it says you're a steward, not just a spender. And know your baseline deeply. I mean, a camera that looks affordable on paper might completely fall apart in a multicam sanctuary environment where you need power, comms, tally light, zoom focus, and remote iris. Know which tools are actually right for the situation and be able to explain that simply to a non-technical pastor or board. Number 3, buy for 10 years, not for today. Boards think in long-term stewardship, right? Speak that language. You're not asking for a camera. You're asking literally for probably a 10-year infrastructure investment. So gear that's still going to be serving the mission a decade from now with minimal maintenance. I mean, honestly, nobody buys a church van expecting to replace it in 3 years. Frame your media that same way. Number 4, use an integrator on the big stuff. This one's huge, and most media directors might skip it because they think they have some technical knowledge themselves. But installing new cameras into your sanctuary is not just about the cameras. There's a significant infrastructure behind the scenes, like cabling, routing, control systems, signal flow. Honestly, most of us are not equipped to that point and to that level. I mean, to a certain point, I'm a technical person, but beyond that, I bring in the pros. So find a broadcast integrator you trust. Someone that's done this for a church bigger than yours, maybe even a church that's already on TV and doing high-level media production. This is not your normal AV vendor from Guitar Center or Best Buy. This is a specialist. And when you bring in an integrator's proposal to a board, it carries a completely different weight than your own spec sheet. It says, you've done this right. Number 5, know your place in the budget ecosystem. Every department in that church has a budget request, from the children's ministry, facilities, worship outreach. The board is holding all of that at once. Going in acting like media is the most important department in the building is a fast way to lose credibility. So align your ask with the church's current season. Read the room. A great ask at the wrong time is still a no. Number 6, walk in ready to give something up. This one really separates the mature leaders from everyone else. When you present a big plan and you're not willing to bend on anything, but you're asking the board to bend and be nimble with you, that's not a fair exchange. They're going to feel it and they're going to start working against you. So build your concession into the plan before you walk in the door. Know your ultimate ask and know exactly what you're willing to cut. should they push back? I mean, maybe it's not the best camera on the list. Maybe it's the second best, but it still gets the job done. And it saves them real money. Maybe it's deferring one piece of the infrastructure to next year's budget cycle. The goal is to show them you're a partner, not just an advocate for your own department. When you walk in already knowing what you're willing to give up and you offer it before they have to ask, you earn a certain level of trust that's super hard to get any other way. So have that game plan ready. Know your ideal, know your fallback, and be prepared to move to that fallback without hesitation. It's not weakness, that's leadership. Everything I just walked you through, the framing, the options, the phasing, the integrator, the willingness to give something up, this is what separates a media technician from a media leader and producer. This is exactly the kind of strategic thinking we work on inside the producer's seat. Most church media people they're super talented at the craft, but the craft only gets you so far. The leaders who build lasting, well-resourced media ministries think like producers. They understand the org chart, they know how to speak to a board, and they know how to push and when to give ground. That's a learnable skill. Come find out more at drwmediaworks.com. I started with 2 stories today. One director did everything right, and he lost the project anyway because the church's bigger mission took priority at the time. Another director got the funding, got the gear, and he lost his job because he waited for the perfect scenario instead of starting with what he had. 2 completely different paths, same lesson. The media department actually serves the mission. It doesn't define it. When you lead from that posture, you stay flexible, phase things in, speak the language of stewardship and vision, and walk in ready to give something up. You become someone the board actually wants to say yes to. And you become someone they stay confident in long after that check's signed. So go build something worth funding. And when you get that yes, start on it. Don't wait. I hope you enjoyed this. Subscribe. If there's a media director you know that you feel this type of content would help them, please pass it on. I'll see you next time.